Hey, you! I'm your nutrition coach. My name is Jackie Poole. Welcome to Happiness is a Healthier Habit. Let's get today's episode started. Hello. Wow, these couple of weeks have been a little crazy. I am not in my regular recording studio like I usually am. And by that, I mean my office in my mom's house. So if you don't know, we moved from Kyle to Katy here in Texas. And I've been visiting my parents quite often these past few weeks because my dad is not in a good place right now. He's been having a lot of health concerns and issues and things of that nature. And I've been going to the doctor's appointments with him and, being a lot there as more of a support and kind of distributing information. I think it's like a culture thing because I love my dad. He's always been there for us. He's provided. He's been somebody that just provides. And while that's not a bad thing, I appreciate that. I don't think he's ever taken care of himself. My mom has always been the one pushing him to go to the doctor and things like that. And he has a lot going on, guys. He literally has a doctor for everything right now. And it's a lot of information. And so I've, had to step up as I am the only sibling that is close to him right now. My brother's in Mexico and obviously can't make it to the States. And so I've been the one to really step up and be there for them and help them in any way. But to be honest, it's been a lot of information and it's been a lot of doctor's visits. And it's been overwhelming, especially with me starting homeschooling. And so luckily enough, I can record through my phone. I have the boys. Actually, I found an online science class for free. And so they're doing like a science marine biology class as I'm recording right now. So how cool is that? And they seem pretty entertained with it. So, here we are. And I'm just kind of all over the place. But I really want to start it today with building confidence. And the other day, I heard a quote from one of my favorite podcasts. Is a quote of the day. He's always bringing speakers that I love. And so I am not that familiar with Keith Harrell, but this episode was on building confidence. And I really want to dive into that because it's something that's really powerful. Self-confidence isn't, some people just have it. They naturally, can talk to people or extroverted, they don't, have a care in the world, and they naturally have that self-confidence, but a lot of people don't, and that's me. Like I do, especially with social media, we do, again, myself, I do a lot of comparison, like, man, like, look at her, she's so skinny, and all of this and that. Like that, for me, body issues have been one of the biggest struggles, and I'm not perfect, but I'm also not that bad. I am consistent. I do this. And so sometimes we have to put our focus into something else, right? And there's a place where sometimes we lose our confidence. We don't feel our best, and we could be comparing ourselves to others. And to build that confidence, maybe it's shot down. Maybe you just stop caring. Maybe you keep telling yourself you're going to do something and you keep failing at it. And so you've lost that confidence in yourself because you don't believe in yourself. But the cool thing about self-confidence is that it's not like you're born with it, right? It's something that you can really develop. And this episode kind of really inspired me because self-confidence can really make or break somebody and really make somebody's decisions. And really, today I feel like we're going to explore our attitude, the choices that we make, and a lot of mindset that goes along to really shape that inner belief, that inner strength, and to really build that confidence. So let's get started. Now, when I heard this episode, it was like a couple of weeks ago. He was doing like an all confidence week thing. And I think I wanted to kind of resurface that this week by talking about self-confidence. And what Keith Harrell was saying in that episode really reminded me that self-confidence is something that you can grow, you can develop. It's not stagnant. It's not you're stuck there forever. You can't do anything about it. So personally, I think it's something that we can do and work with, and as long as we are persistently and are practical about our approach. His insights were really kind of like really highlighted and spotlighted. Our attitude does affect everything we do, and it really does reflect who we are. And I've approached this very much from day one, and that's how I approach my coaching. Like, you gotta believe that this is something that you can do, because I've had multiple, discovery calls, and usually the people that say, no, it's not for me or not right now, either they don't believe in what I do, and the other half is they don't believe in themselves. And that's honestly one of the answers that I get a lot. Like, you know what? I believe in what you do. I believe that you can help me. I just don't believe that I can do it. That, maybe that belief is like, you're so hopeless that there's no hope for you, that it's you are the anomaly, that you are, so different that it might work for others, but it's just not for you. And sometimes having that attitude and having that belief will reflect in what we end up doing. So honestly, attitude is everything. It is everything. And so from this quote, I've, and gathered a little bit about how Keith Harrell approaches things and teaches, is that really life throws curveballs, but we have to respond. We have to respond in a positive, proactive attitude, and can really turn obstacles into opportunities. And it's funny I'm talking about this because I actually went to church with my sister-in-law, and they have this series, call it Make It Make Sense, right? Like, sometimes we ask God, like, why is this happening for me? Why are you doing this to me? What did I do wrong? Right? And sometimes that is not the attitude that we need to have. I always say playing that victim mentality is not good for anybody. It's not good for you. It's not going to allow you to grow. It's not going to allow you to learn from our mistakes. And it's going to be easier to blame others, blame God, blame other people, but yourself. So attitude is everything, and thinking positive and being proactive instead of having this mentality of why me, it's not fair, this is so hard, right? So instead of asking ourselves why, we really need to ask, how can I get through this? How can I grow from this, right? It really changes the perspective, because when we ask, why is this happening to me? There's no room for exploring, of the what you can do or how can you move on, right? It's just like thinking of the past. Like, what did I do wrong? Why did this person do that? There is no real answer of why certain things happen to you. People get into accidents all the time. People lose their jobs all the time. People get into marital, fights all the time. all of these things could be happening, right? But instead of asking why, we really want to focus on, what am I learning from this today? How can I move on? How could I get through this? And really implement a plan, right? We want to move on into this place of taking charge of, okay, this happened, right? It's a fact. This is happening right now. How can I go through this? And the way you answer that question is by taking charge. And the way you take charge is by changing that mentality and that concept of having a plan, having a goal. And so when you do that, when you take charge of that, you feel better about yourself. You feel more confident. Your confidence will grow. And when you feel like, okay, I have an address, it's, when you don't know where you're going and you put the GPS address in the map, it's going to, guide you through the fastest, route possible. And so you're like, perfect. If you're in a hurry, like that's the one that you're going to choose, right? And so you feel confident that you're going to get there on time, that it's taking you through the right roads, the right, highways, and you're going to get there on time. And so you feel good about that. And so when you choose to take charge, your confidence will grow. And so, for instance, even when conditions are beyond your control, your decisions really remain yours. And I love that because I was in a money mastermind training a few weeks ago, and there was this speaker on the TV, like before the meetup. He had like all these like amazing speakers, and I am drawing a blank right now, but they were all great. And one of them was just like cursing the entire time. I don't even remember his name, but he said something that kind of stuck with me till, and it's still with me. Like, I left on time and I got into a car accident, right? The car behind him hit him sitting on a red light. His attitude, there's two types of attitudes that he could have taken, right? Like, been pissed at the other guy, why'd you hit me? You should have been paying attention. But that takes it out of your control, right? It doesn't allow you to have any room for having any feelings that your decisions were your own, or the conditions are beyond your control. So when you put it on the other people, for example, that accident, you feel helpless, you feel pissed off, you feel like, why did this happen to me today? Now I'm going to be late. You have all these thoughts that are essentially negative, right? As opposed to, he reframed it, and granted, I'm just kind of like shortening the story here, but he reframed it to, shit, like I should have left early. Like, this is my fault because I left at the time that I did, right? And that puts the ball in your court again. You have the control once again. And I think that is so powerful. Like, the way I've studied a little bit Harrell's, teachings and that quote, he really emphasized that attitude is really controlling you, or you're under, your control. So that is kind of hard to say. So let me kind of repeat that again. Harrell emphasizes that attitudes are either controlling you or under your control. So let's kind of rephrase that idea. You might not control the storm, but you can control how you dance in the rain. And I love that quote. And it's funny because talking about my dad and going to the appointments, I've been going because I've been supporting my mom. She's been very stressed, and I think I mentioned that in a few episodes previously. she's having some health, things that are not there, but I really think it's a lot of stress. And we've been leaving it a lot to my dad, but we've been more involved these days just because his actions haven't shown a lot of initiative. We're kind of in the doubt or don't know what's going on when he goes by himself. So we really had to take charge. And so the other day he had an appointment downtown, and we're in Katy, and the appointment was downtown Houston. And so it took us an hour and a half to get there, and we sure were the appointment was at 8:30. We got there at 8:29, and he was like, oh my God, we're going to be late. And I was like, yeah, we can't do nothing about traffic. We just, next time we have an appointment like this, we leave earlier. You can't focus on the things that are going on at the moment, only what you can do next time, right? And I love that. You might not control the storm, but you can certainly dance and feel free and confident and love the rain, right? And so I really want to switch to kind of identifying and reframing our negative attitudes, because I think that can really make a difference in how we carry some of this attitude baggage per se, if only, or what now, or what if, kind of those thoughts that put you out of control and really weigh you down and put you in that victim mentality, because we want to change from victim to powerful. And when we feel powerful, that is when confidence shines through. That is when we, feel better, figure out a plan, figure out a process, and go for it. And so let's talk about that, if only. That is really dwelling on the past and regrets. And so one thing that you can do is just change that. So I have kind of some examples that you can work through when you have these thoughts, right? So the other one would be what now may make you feel overwhelmed by the present. You're asking for what now? What could happen next? This couldn't be any worse, right? And so what if could leave you feeling paralyzed by fear of the future. And so when you spot these thoughts, you have to reframe them and choose a more positive action mindset. And so you have to switch this to if only. Instead of if only, you can just change it to that inner voice of optimism and feeling empowered. And so you really have to learn to have this internal dialogue that shapes the reality. Your inner voice is very powerful. And it's very important to stress replacing those negative self-talks with optimistic, empowering thoughts, even if you don't believe them at the moment, okay? Because sometimes you've failed yourself enough times to where I'm just gonna mess up again, or it's not even worth it, right? Because your behaviors and responses are largely shaped by those inner messages. And if you're somebody that's confidence hasn't been there in a long time, or you keep disappointing yourself with the actions that you've been taking, this might be really hard for you because you don't trust yourself, and therefore your actions haven't given you the confidence you want. And so some exercises that you could do that I would encourage you to, maybe write down, one or two of these is just self-affirmation and phrases that you can repeat daily to really support your confidence and start hearing that, to start having those positive beliefs in yourself. And it really changes not only the way you start looking at things, but also the decisions that you start making. So it could be affirmations like, I can grow, or I chose to be optimistic today, or I believe in progress, right? It doesn't have to be something that can feel scary, like, I'm going to change today, right? That is something that is definitive, as opposed to saying I can grow, right? I'm allowing myself to learn, or I choose to be optimism, or to be optimistic, right? So when you say that, when you decide to be optimistic and you're having a bad day, it gives you time to reflect, like, you know what? I am not being optimistic right now. Like, let me give myself like couple of minutes to step out of the situation that I'm in, reset, regroup. I said I was going to be more optimistic. And even if you're not, like, honestly, that alone, having that internal dialogue with yourself and bringing that awareness to the situation, it's going to be a total game changer from going from what you were doing before, as opposed to just going to a negative state and being, what is the opposite of optimism? I can't think of the word right now, but pessimist. There we go. Pessimist. Instead of being, a pessimist, you're going to be optimistic about the situation. And so having these affirmations and repeating them daily, writing them in a journal, in a sticky note, putting them in front of your desk as a daily reminder, it is very important. And I think I've mentioned this before, is part of my coaching program. Like, it is something that really powerful in beginning with that self-confidence, because if you don't have positive thoughts, positive beliefs that you can do this, then honestly, there's not a lot of room to move forward when it comes to making habits stick and change. So yes, it can be consistent for a while, but it might be like you're being forced and it feels forceful. And we don't want that. We want it to naturally come. And the only way to do that is kind of rewiring those thoughts and feelings, because again, thoughts and feelings create actions, and those actions, when we are constantly doing them, will start creating behaviors and the habits that we want. And so affirmations really, really shape our reality. And it's really one of the core things that I think I have in my coaching program. And it's very different, right? When we talk about losing weight, you don't think, affirmations has nothing to do with that, but it definitely does. And especially when it comes to building our belief, building our confidence, and really shaping the way we act in the future. So it does make a difference. Now, going back to Harrell, like, he also recommends doing gratitude and forgiveness, and which gives a lot of antidotes. He gives a lot of antidotes to like negativity and self-doubt. And obviously gratitude is another way of healing your spirit. You let go if you're holding on to certain things. But it really frees you from old burdens. It opens up for confidence to spread and to bloom in your heart. So if you are holding on to something that happened to you in the past, I suggest to let it go. That could be the one thing that's holding you back from making better decisions, right? You can't grow if there's no space for it, right? You can't fit any more things in your closet if you don't spring clean. And so forgiveness is just one of those things that can really help you heal and can really bloom your confidence. And so I really suggest giving affirmations and gratitude and, forgiveness a try, and really dig deep, because sometimes that is work that has to be done with professionals. If you've been dealing with something that's, out of the norm, or you've been hurt by somebody and you haven't really talked about it or dealt with it, that is when therapy comes in, and, having somebody to talk to or work through your, issues, it can really make space for you to grow and blossom. So that is it for today. I thought it was going to be short, but it kind of wasn't. And, attitude tune up, like your takeaway for today is to tune up your attitude to boost your confidence. So here are some kind of like takeaways that you could, do for the next week. If you're noticing that you're having negative or some baggage thoughts, just pause and reframe it positively. Repeat these powerful affirmations of self-belief. You can write them down. You can put them on sticky notes. It is something that I would recommend to do every day if you have low confidence and are just, not accomplishing what you need to or want to, right? Like you've been at this journey for a while and you're not seeing any progress. Like this could be a missing factor. At the end of the day, just, by naming one thing you're grateful for, you can do this consistently and really watch your confidence grow. So from what I got from Keith Harrell, he believes, and I believe this so true, that confidence isn't reserved for, the prettiest or the skinniest or, it's for everyone, and it's created through our choices, through being aware. But I think most importantly is through our daily practices and our daily choices. So I really want you to start designing, some confidence and building that for yourself, one thought at a time. That's all it takes. And I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe for more and share, tag me on social media. Tell me what shifted for you today. And until next time, we will chat.